Oh, it's going to be a good talk today. It's going to be a good talk today. It's your boy G with Alec, along with our good friend, our Charger fan, the one that joined us today, Justin Pierce. Appreciate you for tuning in today. A lot to talk about here for Week 7 of the NFL that just passed. A lot of fun stuff went down. A lot of crazy stuff went down. Want to get to it all. And thank you guys for tuning in as you guys do. Continue to like, rate, review, subscribe, comment, share, all the good stuff for us with the show. We definitely appreciate it all. We continue to build this thing up for you guys. And usually, as you guys see, we start with our 3 truths each week. And we definitely will get to that. But I know JP has some things that he wanted to adjust with us as well. So we're going to start with our Hymn Zone this week, our best and worst performances of Week 7. We're going to talk about those guys and then go from there. So I'll pass to you, JP, as we go along with this. We'll let you react to our picks. There's going to be one that we're surely going to talk about in depth, but we'll start with the good things and then get there. Alec, who is your hymn for Week 7?
Yeah, I initially wanted to go with either Kelsey or Mahomes because they had monster weeks against the Chargers, both of them. But I kind of want to go with a more, I guess you could call it obscure name, especially if you're a casual fan. But Donta Foreman for the Bears exploded against the Raiders. He had 3 total touchdowns, 120 all-purpose yards between rushing and receiving. Beat me in my fantasy matchup because my opponent picked him up. But yeah, no, he was great for the Bears. I think they had Tyson Bagent, who no one had really heard of. Even some NFL scouts hadn't heard of this man. Step in to start at QB, and it was kind of expected that the Raiders might be able to take advantage, even though they had a backup in Hoyer starting too. But no, Donta Foreman put his foot down. He was a DNP, I think, for a few weeks before they ended up using him as a starter this week with some injuries. So
he had
huge.
He had a pretty good year last year. I think that was in Carolina after the McCaffrey trade and thing, after things started to fall apart in Carolina last year. And earned some money. It seemed came to Chicago and thought he'd get a bigger role, but things hadn't quite worked out like that. Guys started getting hurt, and now he had step up to the plate, and he's answered the call as need be. Unlike other teams in baseball right now who swung and missed, he has answered the call as need be and had a great performance last weekend. And hopefully he builds off of that going forward. JP, what do you think about Donta's performance last week?
I mean, hey man, I liked it. It was, I mean, you need that balance in the offense when you have a backup quarterback in there. I mean, we know what Tyrod could do. He's serviceable there for the Giants, but like, you really need that balance like on your offense if you're going to be like efficient like at all on any given Sunday. So just having that, I mean, like 89 yards, 2 touchdowns, all that. I mean, that's big time. So I mean, you really, really have to give it to him. He really helped, keep that offense flowing throughout the game. I mean, it wasn't the best looking game on like
it was kind of an ugly game.
I mean, I mean, you really got to give it to them though. I mean, like they're really figuring out like Dable. Yep. Like we're gonna get to Dable in just a second when we talk Chargers, but Dable really knows how to like work everyone's strengths in his offense. I think that's the reason why like the Giants haven't really completely collapsed yet. Where there's been a lot of opportunities for them to throughout the season. So.
Yeah, definitely good stuff there. We'll see how the Bears can pull from that as well to keep Donta rolling as he is. And yeah, just definitely a good performance there from him. For my hymn for this week, let's give it up, man. 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 We see what Lamar did versus them Lions, man. All the talk last week was Jared Goff, and then the Lions are top 3. They're Super Bowl contenders this year. Are they legit? We got to make sure we respect the Lions.
Wait, didn't you put them top 3?
I even intentionally put them top 3. You got to build them up to tear them down. You got to build them up to tear them down. The Lions are all the hype. I still respect Goff. But we saw with Lamar when we walked in that building. He had 20 for 27, 357 yards, 3 touchdowns, dominated the.
I apologize. I was looking at the Giants score. I was not looking at the Bears score for that one. So
All good.
Yeah. I apologize. So yeah, no, the Bears. I mean, the Bears have they're putting off 2 in a row. I mean, like. They've been doing well. I mean, they've been doing well as of late. They've been, they've been trying to get the offense rolling, and they seems like it's working with any quarterback, right? I mean, you put Fields in there, you put Badgett in there. I mean, it's working for them. So, I mean, really at the end of the day, like they're cooking up something, and they play my Bolts this week, so we'll see.
Right.
We'll kind of see what happens with that, and
we definitely will be interested to see that matchup for sure.
yeah,
we'll get to it.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. But yeah, no,
Definitely.
I wanted to apologize for the viewers out there.
No, you're good.
You're totally fine. We were to adjust as need be to work it out. As we said, we want to salute to Dante, and as we go on to my pick, like I said, salute to Lamar for what he did in the whole Ravens squad versus the Lions, who people had high hopes for, and the Ravens blew them out the wire. It looked like they are now the team that should be top 3 for the moment. So good stuff there. Any thoughts, Alec? I'll start with you again on Lamar and what he did this last weekend.
Yeah, I mean, we both expected the Ravens to win this game. The Lions have been playing great football, but the second game on the road against a really good defense, we both favored the Ravens, and a few people kind of were projecting this might happen, but we got Lamar's kind of first big blow-up game of the season offensively. He's been playing well. He probably had opportunity to have games like this earlier if his receivers were catching the ball. But yeah, he finally got the big statistical offensive game, and it was a dominating performance for the entire team. But yeah, I think Lamar definitely deserves a spot. If you didn't mention him, I would have.
Love to see it. JP, any thoughts on Lamar last weekend?
Yeah, man. I mean, he's hitting his potential. Like when you go out and beat a good team like the Lions, like even if it's at home, like visiting that stadium there in Baltimore, like that's a tough place to play. Like overall, like I mean, you gotta really give it to the Ravens, and just we've been wanting to see those strides after Lamar won his MVP a few seasons ago, but like we're now seeing it, and like it's not always about how great you look and like how flashy you can look. It's just about how consistent you can be, and the Ravens consistently rack up wins with Harbaugh and Lamar. I think that's going to be a problem for teams in the AFC North for the next decade. So.
Yeah, so definitely good stuff there. Hopefully they can continue to build on that. We've seen the last couple of years, Lamar's first year, flipping the helmets MVP year, we saw that the Ravens really got rolling, and they have games like this, and it'll be one after the other, and they're able to sustain it for at least a few weeks as they went on a decent run early on. We saw in the last couple of years, though, they've been trying to find their way. They have a blowout game, and then all of a sudden they get caught the next week by a random squad because they got too full of themselves. So this is a good test this next week versus the Cardinals to see if they're going to continue to build off what they just did, or if they're going to allow themselves to get caught up and in the moment and be upset by a team that shouldn't beat them after a great performance that we just saw. So looking forward to that. But good stuff from Lamar. I hope that they continue to build on that. Now to the fun side, the not him side. Alec, I'm going to start with you again because mine sure is going to be a long conversation. Who was your not him this week for week 7?
Yeah, yours would have been mine too as well. There's a few QBs, obvious, like week in, week out. There's some quarterback play that's just abysmal. But mine, I'm going with, I guess, my partial namesake, last name, first name switch. But Foster Moreau, we didn't forget about you. That Thursday night game, sometimes they can go under the radar a little bit when we talk about the past Sundays. But Foster Moreau dropped a wide open touchdown that could have tied the game against the Jaguars, and it was rough. It was rough. I mean, you could tell he was feeling it. He had his head down on the bench afterwards. I mean, because that's a game-changing play. It was uncontested, wide open in the end zone, and he just went butterfingers on it. And he doesn't get like a ton of opportunities either, so it hurts even more when you have an opportunity like that and you don't cash in. And that was a game that the Saints potentially could have won. So that was a game-tying touchdown. So yeah, I had to throw him on there.
Yeah, he tried. Oh, actually, go ahead, JP. I'll let you respond.
Yeah, no, I mean, you got to make that play. You got keep your head out of the moment and catch that football. I mean, that's the difference between winning the division and missing the playoffs right there. I mean, especially So, I mean, like the Saints. I mean, the Saints have looked like okay throughout the year, but like, I mean, they've had some lapses. Right, like this has been one of their lapses. Is like a game like where you come back and like you're trying to like steal a game and at home on Thursday night. That's when you got to have. So
yeah, could come back to Honda.
It was very much a Saints game. Like it went kind of as you guys are saying, like the Jags went up big in that game, and it was like, oh, here goes the Saints again, falling apart. Derek Carr was yelling at receivers and all kinds of stuff. Like it seemed bad. And then you look up again, all of a sudden this game's almost tied, and they have a chance to win it. And when they almost pull up the upset, they still find a way to come up just short. So it is what it is. Tough moment for Foster. He took full accountability after the game. Like he knows no one wants to hear from him. He knows no one wants to see him, but he knows what he has to do. And this team will continue to fight hard the rest of the way. So tough moment. So he has to be acknowledged in that. But good to see that he also is aware that he wants to do better going forward. And hopefully they do that going forward. So good stuff or bad stuff, I guess, from there. But now the one that we're all here for. JP had a lot to talk about in regards to the Chargers this last week. And for my not him, I got our favorite tandem, Brandon Staley and Justin Herbert.
You hated a tandem. Okay.
Coming up short versus the Chiefs. We all saw it coming. Everybody except Chargers fans somehow didn't see the writing on the wall and ended up going. And I don't want to say worse than we expected, but they ended up taking the L as we thought. 31-17 was the final score. They did their best AD impersonation. They had 17 in the first half, 0 in the second half.
I like
it was a bad look from them. And Justin Herbert is a guy kind of like AD who we see all the potential for. Like, bro, just go and do it. It's there. You have the talent. It's there. Just get the job done. And somehow he never fully, or I won't say never fully, but we'll get to see him enough live up to his potential. And yeah, having them come up short, even though people say they expected it versus the Chiefs squad, who are our top team. The Chargers were supposed to be up there as well. Continuing to fall short had to be acknowledged. So JP, this is the main reason you're here.
What was Herbert's stat line too?
Herbert went 17 for 30, 259 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. And those 2 picks, I think one was early and then one was at the end of the game when things kind of fell apart. And he kind of threw one up trying to make something happen, and there was just nothing there but red. So it was what it was. So JP, the floor is yours. Defend your boy. Is he elite or what?
Hey man, it was. I mean, that first pick. I mean, I'm not gonna nitpick every single play, but that first pick was a deflection. But like, it'd be like that sometimes. So
there's a lot of deflections with this Charger squad.
I know, man. All I gotta say is though, like, I'm gonna keep it like short and concise with Herbert. I mean, his 2 worst games probably of his career were one on Monday night with 30 million viewers all across like ESPN and ABC. Second one is team's a little rattled after on a 5-day break. You're going to your division rival who won the Super Bowl last year. I mean, that's a big ask overall.
Taylor had him sweating.
I'm not sweating about Herbert because he.
No, I'm saying Taylor Swift had him sweating. Is that what the issue was?
They had him sweating. I mean that's the thing. I personally don't think that like people should be worried about Herbert as much as the rest of the team because I mean we've seen what Herbert could do like talent wise. Like I mean how many teams? There's 32 NFL teams. How many teams are not gonna want Justin Herbert on their team if they?
I'd say 5
quarterback today. Yeah, like
5 teams.
That's the question people love to ask. People love to use that comparison. Oh, every team would love to have him. The team that he's on should love to have him too. And they're not using him right. So why can't the Chargers make it work with the guy they have on his team here?
Because I mean, the Chargers are cheap. They've been cheap my entire life. I've watched this team since they were in San Diego for.
I don't want to keep shooting. I'm sorry. I'm gonna jump in one more time though. Sorry. I have to acknowledge this. You have Keenan Allen there, who's look like a top receiver still. Mike Williams was there and he got hurt, sure. But you have pieces that are around him. They've tried to give him pieces. So I get Chargers fans keep saying that they're cheap and they're cursed and all this stuff.
And they spent money on defense and it didn't work.
They're giving him a defense, they're giving him an offense, they're giving him pieces, and still we get this. So I'm done now. The floor is yours.
They're spending on players. That's not a question at all. They have the most expensive defense in the NFL. The cheap part is with coaching, with player personnel, with player development. That all matters. Like when you have, let's look at the other team in LA, like Puka Nacua, like putting up 100 and 150 yards a game. Like it seems like every single week. Like player development matters. Like having an ownership that really cares about its players matters. Like, you can't sit there and say that we're going to move like just all of the football stuff aside. you can't sit there and say, yeah, we're going to move to our rival team's city down the I-5, up the I-5, and say you're a serious franchise. You just can't do that. I mean, that's just what they're dealing with. They played the LA Galaxy Stadium for 3 years. Like, they are cheap. They are not paying for their stadium. They can't build a new stadium for their own. They have to share with the Rams. I love the Rams stadium too. Like, it's nice. It's great. Love SoFi. But you can't sit there and say you're a serious franchise who's willing to go all in and put all the chips down to win a championship when your ownership doesn't care and when your front office is kind of like, whatever. We have Tom Telesco. He's been with the team for 10 years and has 2 playoff appearances, like 2 playoff wins. Like, you can't do that. So I think the players are serious about winning. The coaches are serious about winning, but the coaches aren't qualified enough at all. Like, the hire should have been Dable. Everyone knew the hire should have been Brian Dable. And, they're not serious. They're not serious about the way they operate. And, every few years, this could be a good bit for you guys on social media too. Every few years, they have the Chargers have like a loss, like a primetime loss to like some no-name quarterback. Yeah. They lost a few years ago at SoFi, or not at SoFi, at
That's more like every year, but
go ahead. No, but yeah.
every few years they have a loss to a dude who no one's ever heard of at quarterback. They lost to Duck Hodges on Sunday Night Football back in 2019, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I kind of see a similar trend happening with this team this week, and this is going to be the backbreaker for their season because
they're a couple bounces away from 0-6 this year. So
they really are. And like, I mean, if it wasn't for the talent on that defense, making some game-saving plays against the Raiders and Vikings, it probably would be 0-6. You're absolutely right. So, yeah, I mean, like they have a few games, like they'll have a game every few years where the whole entire country asks, why did they lose that game? So I think this is going to be the week where it happens. If it doesn't happen, good for them. But you really have to look in the mirror and be like, why is this team losing these games? And it's because of dudes like Brandon Staley. So
can I ask for more depth in that? Like you said, you would rather have Dable. What would Dable have provided that Staley is not providing for this squad?
Yeah, we see year 2 of Dable with the Giants too.
Right.
And we're seeing we're seeing a whole variety of offense with the Giants. So we're seeing a lot, like we're seeing them win with anybody on their center. We're seeing them play for a coach like that they want to fight for. That
I don't know about this year.
And we're seeing Brandon Staley put up as a defensive coach. He's allowing 25 points per game, which is 30th in the NFL since he started as a head coach. He's allowing 361 yards a game, 28th in the NFL. We're allowing 135 yards on the ground per game. That's 30th in the NFL. And then third down percentage. He's like, teams are converting on 43.4% of their third downs.
Yeah, for a defensive-minded coach, the defense has not been as stout as you would expect, for sure.
Exactly. I mean, you guys saw the meme on Twitter, man. Like, you had 7 DBs like lined up on the line of scrimmage when it was like 13-14, and all they had to do was run it up. I mean, that itself is a joke. Like, he knows that like he is on the hot seat. He knows he's probably going to get canned next year. I mean, you really.
Real quick, why have they not canned him this year?
Because the Chargers don't can coaches. Because if they do can a coach mid-year, they're gonna have to pay for the rest of the year and the rest of the
cheap point.
That's why he's cheap. That's why Dean Spanos was cheap. And I mean, they should have never went on with him this year. He should have been canned after last year, after playing Mike Williams in a meaningless Week 17 game. After the 28-0 lead. To the Jaguars last year. I mean, Doug Marrone, the Jaguars coach, man, he coached circles around it like everyone, like throughout the entire year, like not only in the AFC South, but against the Chargers too, when they played at SoFi. 38-10 was the Week 3 score. Then that 30, I mean, that playoff loss, man. I just don't understand like how you can't see the writing in the wall where it's like, you can't win a championship with this guy. You have to let him go.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a defensive mind, but he had 1 year as a defensive coordinator with the Rams and had probably one of the most talented defenses
We talk at length about the Chargers' struggles week in and week out, so we're very aware of some of the things like that you're talking about as to why they kind of can't get over the hump or they can't seem to get out of their own way. But how much of that blame do you feel like Herbert deserves as well too? I mean, because it sounds like you're kind of completely absolving him because
everybody but Herbert. Herbert is good in all this.
I think he definitely deserves some blame, but it's also at the same time like player development's huge. Like Chargers first year with Justin Herbert, they had Anthony Lynn, no good coach. The 49ers special teams assistant now. I mean, like he's doing all right for himself. But they had their QB coach who took over as the interim offensive coordinator in 2019 was Shane Steichen, right? You guys know Steichen, right? Did Jalen Hurts wonders last year, basically almost won an MVP. He's with Indianapolis now. He's going to help Anthony Richardson a lot. And he put up 38 points this past week against the Browns, against a pretty good
Gardner Minshew,
yeah. But like, we know what he can do. I think player development matters. I think, like, if you have, I mean, like, I hate using the word if when it comes to this kid, because we've seen what he can do. We've seen the throws he can make. We've seen the games he could win. Like, the Steelers game Sunday Night Football a couple of years back, the Titans last year, Kansas City during Staley's first year, where they completely ditched the field goal and then went for the touchdown and then the extra point, that chaos. I mean, we've seen what Herbert can do. It's just all about starting. He came into the league. I mean, he came into the league as like a pretty solid quarterback. You'd say A caliber quarterback, but he's still there. Like, we haven't seen him take that next step. I think that's what's missing from Herbert. And I think he definitely deserves some blame in terms of, you know, who he's throwing to, who he can trust on the field. Chargers first round pick Quentin Johnson's not getting enough targets. It's definitely, I definitely want to see him spread the ball a little bit more and trust his guys a little bit more. And I think hopefully Sunday he can do that and not lose a game that the Chargers normally lose every few years. So that's my thing. He needs to trust his guys more, and, you know, just get better, just excel, just be that, just prove you are that dude. You have to have it. I think a few dudes in this league have it. Like, you have Joe Burrow, Pat Mahomes, Trevor Lawrence has shown he has it. But I think that's the one thing that Herbert's missing is that it factor.
Correct.
That's all we've been saying. So when we say that, don't attack us. That's all we're saying. We know the same thing.
My thing though with Alec was saying that he wasn't elite. I think he's definitely elite. Like, in terms of that, like.
Well, how do you define elite? How do you define elite first?
You have to have the talent. You have to have the numbers. I mean, he won Rookie of the Year. He's had the most passing yards since entering the league, most touchdowns since entering the league. I mean, he has the numbers. It's just the wins, the losses. He's under 500 right now. I mean, like, I think he needs.
He doesn't have the numbers.
He has the numbers. He has the numbers since his rookie year, not this year, of course, but like, it's just all about taking that next step for him. But like, saying he's not elite is a little bit. Who would be the
elite quarterbacks in your mind?
I'd say Pat Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Lamar, Josh Allen, Herbert. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, all you guys you mentioned before him, I would put in the class of elite, and have shown us that they can do it in the playoffs. I agree with you that he statistically had, especially his rookie year, like, he exploded onto the scene his rookie year, Herbert. And I agree. We see the arm talent. We see that he can make all the throws on the field. And of course, people in defense of him have been bringing up him being third in game-winning drives, but not putting into full context that just shows that the Chargers have been in close games pretty much every game he's played in.
Yeah, exactly.
Where he's also had like the most interceptions in crunch time of any quarterback in the last 3 years as well too. So I just think him putting it all together, which is kind of what you said too, as far as the it factor. I just think he hasn't fully put it all together, and maybe to your point as well, like. The player development, maybe bringing in a veteran QB that kind of has that experience that can show him the ropes as a backup. I think he could use some of that development a little bit too, just in clutch time games, if it's a 1-score game, 2 minutes left, and the Chargers have a ball, I'm not confident that he's taking them down the field. Personally, he hasn't instilled in me that confidence yet. Whereas Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Lamar, I mean, Hurts, we saw incredible playoff run and Super Bowl performance. I think those guys are solidified to me, and Herbert is just outside looking in and right on the cusp of it.
So he has shown it before in games. It's just a matter of the how often can he show it? Does he have to show it off
We talked about consistency.
It's how many times is this kid going to be in 1-score games? I mean, it feels like every single week. It's not like he's not clutch, like he has the clutch gene. It's every single week. How often are you going to be in like 1-score games? Like I want to see I want to see like if he can take over a game, which I know he can. It's just a matter of this year. I want to see them blow out an opponent. Like I want to see them,
not gonna happen.
Right.
Sunday. Like I want to see them.
Yeah.
Really put everything together and really get into a groove. I mean, they did that last year where it's like they won games by a lot, and and despite all the injuries, like they were missing Keenan Allen for 8 games, Mike Williams, who it seems like he was always injured. Like seems like he's been the missing piece there as well. Like Herbert's jump ball guy in the red zone. Like I mean, we've seen him put it together. It's all about, I think, with Kellen Moore, it's all about getting established into that new offense and gaining some consistency for this team. I just think I think they need to really just think about how they manage some of those 2-minute situations like during those games, and I think that's the next step for him is how he can develop under that new offensive coordinator. I just think that needs to happen.
It's hard to manage 2-minute situations when you're throwing an interception. So I agree for sure.
Right. So we'll see how all that gets managed. Definitely a lot of things to fix on that Chargers side. We'll talk about that more as things go along.